I woke up and was promptly kicked out of bed by Cole. He'd lost his memory. He remembered I was his sworn enemy, remembered my family went bankrupt, but had completely forgotten the 3 years we'd spent together, day and night. He called me worthless, a man who'd sell anything for money. He even brought home the one that got away to humiliate me face to face. See this? This is what someone worthy of me looks like. I looked down at my slightly rounded belly, where the baby he used to press his face against and whisper, "Daddy loves you," was growing. I quickly packed my things and, while I was at it, cleaned out his account for $100 million. But later, he was the one on his knees before me, eyes red with tears. "Baby, I was wrong. Please come back. The baby needs a father." I stroked my belly and pushed him away. "Mr. Cole, you must have me confused with someone else. I'm a man. How could I possibly be your pregnant wife?" Cole kicked me out of bed. My back slammed against the floor. A dull, explosive pain shot through me. A second later, a sharp, cramping pain stabbed at my lower abdomen. I curled up, breaking out in a cold sweat. I looked up, dazed. Cole was sitting on the edge of the bed. His eyes flickered away for a second before hardening, turning cold and vicious. It was a look of disgust I hadn't seen in years, one reserved only for me. "Edward Russell?" The contempt in his voice was undisguised. "What is a piece of trash like you doing in my bed? Fucking disgusting." My heart seized. "Cole, you, me what?" He cut me off, getting out of bed and stalking toward me. Barefoot, he loomed over me, looking down his nose. "You're lucky that kick didn't kill you." I grabbed the nightstand, slowly pulling myself up. You don't remember me?" He laughed. "I'd know you if you were nothing but ash." "Edward, what new trick is this? Deliberately climbing into my bed to gross me out? You got a death wish?" "No." I tried to stand, but the dragging pain in my belly left me weak. He lunged, his hands snapping out to grab my chin. He squeezed so hard I thought the bone would shatter. I couldn't help but suck in a sharp breath. He saw the pain in my expression and his eyes faltered for a moment. He then loosened his grip with a strange look on his face. But his words were still unbelievably cruel. "Know what? Wasn't it you who was begging me to fuck you, like a dog in heat? The Russell family fortune collapsed 3 years ago. Haven't you sold that body of yours enough? Did everyone else in the world turn you down, you filthy thing, so you came crawling to me?" The blood in my veins turned to ice. The revulsion in his voice was so real. It completely erased the tenderness of just last night, when he'd held me so carefully, kissing my belly and whispering, "Daddy loves his baby." You don't remember?" My voice trembled as I clung to one last sliver of hope. "Remember what?" He shoved me away in disgust, pulling out a tissue to vigorously wipe the fingers that had touched me. "Remember how you spread your legs and begged for it?" The push sent me stumbling back to the ground, and a vicious cramp shot through my stomach. My face went white, and I instinctively wrapped my arms around my slightly protruding belly. That movement seemed to enrage him. His eyes locked onto my stomach. He stared, stunned for a second, before letting out a burst of derisive laughter that was even more piercing than his words. "Ha!" He smirked. "You'd even dare to lie about being pregnant just to get my money? Edward Russell, have you no shame? You're a man. A man getting pregnant? I'd have an easier time believing you're the reincarnation of George Washington." All the words of explanation died in my throat. The part of my heart he'd spent 3 years warming. He'd just taken a knife to it himself, carving it into a bloody, unrecognizable mess. I was thrown out of the master bedroom. "Get out." Cole tossed the words at me. "The sight of you makes me sick." That evening, he brought someone home. Connor. The one that got away. The man he once pined for and praised endlessly. Connor was exquisitely dressed, his smile perfectly polite. But when his eyes landed on me, they were filled with undisguised contempt. "Cole, is this the clingy mess you were telling me about?" Cole's arm rested naturally on Connor's shoulder in a familiar, intimate gesture. It was a pose I knew well, only the person he was holding was different. "Yeah, he just won't leave. So annoying. Don't look at him. He's a filthy thing who'd do anything for money." You'll dirty your eyes. He spoke to Connor in a soft, gentle voice. Then he turned to me and barked. What are you standing there for? Go get Connor a glass of water. I didn't move. The cramping in my abdomen hadn't stopped, and the doctor's words from earlier that day, threatened miscarriage, haunted me. Connor let out a soft laugh. Cole, it looks like he's not too happy about serving me. Cole's face darkened. He strode over and grabbed me by the collar. Edward, don't push your luck. I looked him in the eye, holding on to a sliver of hope as I said, word by word, you bought me, Cole. You didn't hire me as a servant. For some reason, that sentence set him off. He exploded with rage. Bought you? He slammed me against the wall, my spine cracking against it in agony. You think you have the right to say that? If I'd spent money on a dog, at least it would know how to bark. And you? All you can do is wear that dead inside expression. I curled over in pain, sweat beading on my forehead. Cole, don't get angry over someone like him, Connor cooed, pressing up against him. Just make him stay out of the way. We don't need him ruining the mood. Cole snorted and pointed toward the guest room door. You hear that? Get over there. And don't come out and spoil Connor's mood. He wrapped his arm around Connor and led him into the master bedroom. The slam of the door was deafening. I slid down the cold wall, pressing my hands hard against my stomach. Pain. So much pain. My baby. Was I going to lose my baby? I managed to grab my phone, the screen slick with cold sweat. I needed to call the doctor, but a new text message popped up first. It was from Cole. You're coming with me and Connor to the stables tomorrow. You'll be on hand to serve him. If you pull that long face again and upset Connor, you'll face the consequences. Tears fell without warning. Mixing with the cold sweat, they were salty and bitter. He'd forgotten. He'd forgotten everything. He'd forgotten how he'd spun me around in excitement when he found out I was pregnant. How he'd just grinned foolishly when the doctor scolded him. He'd forgotten how he'd practically kidnapped the best OBGYNs in New York to create a file for me, fussing nervously over every detail. He'd forgotten how he'd press his face to my stomach every night and say in a voice softer than I'd ever heard, "Be good, little one. Don't bother your papa's Edward." Now all he remembered was his hatred for me. All he remembered was how to use me to please the one that got away. The twisting pain in my abdomen grew more intense. With trembling fingers, I dialed the doctor's number. He arrived quickly. After examining me, his face was grim. "Edward, you're under severe emotional distress. You're showing signs of a threatened miscarriage. You must have absolute bed rest. No more stress of any kind. Your physiology is already unique. Getting pregnant was a miracle. You have to be incredibly careful. Absolute bed rest? Quiet rest? Be careful?" I listened to the sounds of Cole and Connor's laughter seeping from under the master bedroom door. The whole situation felt absurd and hopeless. The doctor gave me a progesterone shot and left some medication. He hesitated. "Edward, actually, Mr. Cole is very worried about you. He was the one who told me I had to about Mr. Cole." I shook my head, my voice raspy. "Don't tell him." The doctor sighed, his eyes red as if there was something more he wanted to say. But I didn't want to hear it. I waved him away and he left. That night, I curled up on the cold guest room bed. The pain so intense I drifted in and out of consciousness. No one knew. The next day, my face was ghost white and my legs felt weak. But Cole forced me to go to the stables with them. What's with the act? He grabbed my arm impatiently, practically dragging me along. "Connor's been waiting for you to serve him for half an hour." Connor sat high on a magnificent horse, his smile gentle, but his words were poison. "Cole, can he lead my horse for me? It's not like he has anything else to do." Without a moment's hesitation, Cole thrust the reins into my hand. "Hold on tight. If anything happens to Connor, I'll kill you." The horse snorted impatiently and shifted. The reins went taut. Already weak, I was pulled off balance and fell hard, landing on my knees. A tearing pain ripped through my abdomen, sweeping over me in a wave. My vision went black. I bit down hard, swallowing the cry of pain that rose in my throat. The taste of blood filled my mouth. I looked up. Cole was standing protectively beside Connor's horse, looking up at him and laughing as they talked. The sun shone down on him, painting a picture of deep affection. Once upon a time, he used to protect me just like that. The death of a heart. Turns out it can happen in an instant. If I stayed, he would wear me and my child down until there was nothing left. I had to leave. I had to get out. A cold, clear plan began to form in the midst of my agony. I let go of the reins and turned and walked away. I ignored Cole's furious roar from behind me. Edward Russell, you dare walk away from me? If you leave, don't you ever come back. We'll see who wants you, you used broken piece of trash. I didn't look back. The sun was blinding, but I felt cold to the bone. Every step was a tearing pain in my belly, but it was nothing compared to the emptiness in my heart. Back at the cold villa, I started packing. There wasn't much to pack, really. I owned very few things. Most of it was stuff Cole had bought me, and I didn't want it anymore. My fingers brushed over a few old clothes in the closet, and I paused. Memories flooded back like a broken dam, overwhelming me. 3 years ago, my family's empire had crumbled overnight. My parents couldn't handle the blow and passed away one after the other. They left me with an astronomical amount of debt and countless pairs of bloodshot eyes demanding repayment. I dropped out of college and took on endless jobs. I washed dishes in restaurants during the day and hauled cargo at the docks at night. I was like a dog gasping for air, but the money I earned wasn't even enough to cover the interest. Until that day, when I was serving drinks at an exclusive club downtown. I ran into Cole. He was surrounded by a crowd of rich kids, the crown prince of New York's high society, the center of everyone's universe. I kept my head down, carrying a tray of expensive liquor, just wanting to get past him. But he spotted me instantly. Well, if it isn't little Edward Russell. His tone was flippant, full of undisguised malice. What, is the Russell family so broke you have to sell yourself for smiles now? The group around him burst into laughter. My nails dug into my palms. I stayed silent, trying to walk around him, but he wouldn't let it go. He stuck his foot out and tripped me. Caught off guard, I pitched forward. The tray of drinks crashed to the floor, and glass shards mixed with expensive liquor splattered everywhere. The manager rushed over and started screaming at me, but Cole just smiled, waved a hand, and threw down a wad of cash. It's nothing. Little Edward here is worth more than that. He crouched down, leaning in close, and said in a voice only the two of us could hear, "Beg me, Edward. Beg me, and I'll help you pay off your debt." I snapped my head up and met his bottomless gaze. It was filled with hatred, amusement, and a crazed possessiveness I couldn't comprehend. "In your dreams," I bit out. He smiled, stood up, and looked down at me. "Fine. Got some backbone, I see. Let's see how long that spine of yours stays straight." Life got even harder after that. The debt collectors became more aggressive. They blocked my door, threw paint, and even got physical. I was at the end of my rope. Then he appeared again. He showed up at my lowest point, watching me like it was all a great show. "Come with me." He wasn't smiling this time. His tone was an order that couldn't be refused. "I'll pay the money. I'll clear the debt. The price is you." He grabbed my chin, his grip terrifyingly strong. "Edward Russell, for the rest of your life you belong to me." I had no choice. I was like a fish on a cutting board at his mercy. He brought me back to this villa. He treated me like a trophy, a canary in a gilded cage. He took me by force and imprisoned me by his side. But over these 3 years, he was both cruel and kind to me. His cruelty was reserved for the bedroom, where he'd leave me too sore to get out of bed. But outside of it, he was good to me, practically willing to lay the world at my feet. It made me wonder if he had some kind of split personality disorder. And pathetically, I'd slowly gotten used to it. I even started to have foolish fantasies amid his daily, obsessive possession. I thought maybe being tangled up with him for a lifetime wouldn't be so bad. I'd actually known him since we were kids. You could say we grew up fighting. We competed over everything, fought for everything. Everyone knew we didn't get along, that we'd clash the moment we saw each other. But I had a secret. I'd liked him since we were children. I fought with him over everything because I just wanted him to look at me a little more. And I knew his secret, too. He'd liked me since we were kids. He had a diary, and every page was filled with my name. I also knew that he had taken care of every single person who had brought my family down. His methods were ruthless, and everyone knew it. He even posted a sticky on his company's official website. Edward Russell is mine. Anyone who messes with him will answer to me. But now, the one messing with me, the one bullying me, was him. The memories stopped abruptly. My heart ached. I cut up all my old clothes, and then I cut up all of his. When that wasn't enough, I threw his clothes into the toilet. Then I packed all the designer watches and expensive luxury goods he'd bought me over the past 3 years into bags. There was too much, it was too heavy. I couldn't carry it all. I called for a courier. When the housekeeper asked, I just said I was getting rid of some old things. She didn't ask any more questions. Because 3 years ago, when Cole first brought me home, he told her that as long as it wasn't dangerous, she was never to stop me from doing anything I wanted. And then there was the card. The black card with $100 million limit that Cole had forced on me, calling it pocket money. He'd whispered in my ear back then, practically begging me, Edward, take it. It'll give you some security, and it'll give me a tangible way to feel like I have you. Please? I'm begging you, you have to take it. At the time, I just thought he was a controlling psycho. Now, it was my only way out. Another cramp shot through my abdomen. The baby, I needed a doctor. Now, I suddenly thought of someone. Dr. Larry Vance. When Cole first locked me up, I had a complete breakdown. I went on a hunger strike and my health plummeted. At the time, I thought he was just getting his revenge on me. I trashed his room. I pried open his locked drawer, and I saw the diary, filled with my name, and I finally understood that he loved me, too. That's when I stopped fighting back. It was also around that time that I met Larry. He was the youngest doctor on Cole's personal medical team. He was a brilliant doctor, quiet and reserved, but his eyes held a kind of gentle, shared suffering. He used to sneak me candy and whisper, "There's always hope as long as you're alive." As we got to know each other better, he learned about my unusual physiology and took extra care of me. Once, while he was treating a wound for me, his sleeve slipped down, and I saw a Dungninda scar on his forearm. He quickly pulled his sleeve back down, his eyes dark. I have a not-so-normal uncle in the family. He told me he'd gone into medicine partly so he could one day escape that family for good. We were like two trapped animals, sharing a silent, mutual understanding and friendship. My hands trembling, I dialed his number. He picked up on the first ring. "Edward? Larry?" My voice was a wreck. "Help me, please." There was a second of silence on the other end. "The back alley gate in half an hour. Be ready. I'm getting you out." His voice was calm and decisive with a do-or-die finality. "It's time. I can't stay here anymore either. My uncle, he's found me." 30 minutes later, clutching my stomach and carrying a simple backpack, I avoided the villa's cameras and stumbled to the back alley. An unremarkable black car slid silently to a stop. The window rolled down, revealing Larry's handsome but tense face. "Get in." I pulled the door open and climbed inside. The car sped off immediately. "You?" I stared at the suitcase he had in the back seat. "I told you we're leaving together," he said, his focus on the road ahead, his voice steady. "He's closing in. If I don't leave now, my life is over." He glanced at me in the rearview mirror, his brow furrowed. "You look terrible. Don't talk. Just lie back." He drove me directly to a private airfield. He'd already arranged everything on the way. "First, we're going to an island down south. A friend of mine from med school is there. They have a full medical facility, enough to keep you and the baby safe." He spoke quickly. "Cole won't find you there, not for a while." I leaned back against the seat, completely drained. My hand rested gently on my stomach. "Baby, just hold on a little longer. Daddy's getting you out of here." The city flew by outside the window. It was all like a bizarre, chaotic dream. A dream of my family's ruin, of the humiliation of being taken by Cole, of 3 years of tangled love and hate, and of his cold eyes and insulting words after he lost his memory. Now, the dream was over. I took out my phone. snapped the SIM card in half, and threw it out the window. Goodbye, Cole. No. Good riddance. The private jet climbed into the sky. Larry gave me a sedative, and the abdominal pain gradually subsided. I watched the sea of clouds rolling by outside the window, a strange sense of peace settling over me. $100 million. He got off easy. Once I was stable, I was going to find a way to take a few $100 million more from him. Me, my baby, and Larry, we were going to have a happy life. And that happiness would be built on Cole's money. If I couldn't have his love, I'd take his money. That damn bastard. So he lost his memory? He forgot the last 3 years, but did he forget everything before that? Didn't he say he'd loved me since we were kids? Now he's forgotten just 3 years and he dares to curse at me, to lay a hand on me? Took Cole 3 days to realize Edward was gone. First, he didn't care, because this was all part of his plan. He needed his Edward to leave him, to leave a dying man. Otherwise, with his resources, how could Edward have ever escaped? And to make the act more convincing, even after Edward was gone, he continued to parade Connor around town. He wanted Edward to give up on him completely. That way, when he died, his Edward wouldn't be sad, right? For the next few days, he was busy entertaining Connor. He took him to all the most exclusive venues, bought him limited edition luxury goods, and basked in the envious stares of those around them and Connor's adoring gaze. But a corner of his heart felt strangely empty, especially when he returned to the villa and saw that empty guest room. On the 4th day, Connor complained with a frown. Cole, that Birkin bag I want has such a long waiting list. Cole instinctively reached for his phone, about to order his assistant to take care of it out of habit. But he froze. In the past, Edward would have quietly handled little things like this. He would have meticulously noted the preferences of all of Cole's friends and business partners, arranging everything in advance without a single mistake. Cole waved a hand irritably. If you like it, you can wait a few days. Connor's expression stiffened. On the 5th day, Cole's gastritis flared up. He was in so much pain he broke out in a cold sweat. Clutching his stomach, he called out by instinct, "Edward, the medicine." Only an echo answered in the empty house. It was only then that he remembered. The person who would always be there with a glass of warm water and his pills, who would even awkwardly try to rub his stomach, was gone. He fought through the pain and stumbled to the medicine cabinet. The cabinet was perfectly organized, with handwritten labels on each compartment, the handwriting neat and elegant. It was Edward's handwriting. The space for his stomach medication was empty. The label read, "Only 1 strip of stomach pills left. Remember to have your assistant reorder. Cole, avoid cold foods and drink less." Cole stared at the words, and his heart felt like it had been violently struck by something. He collapsed to the floor. His head hit the corner of a table. A sharp, stabbing pain shot through his brain without warning. Fragments of memory flooded back. He'd been entertaining clients and drank so much his stomach started bleeding. Edward had stayed by his side at the hospital for 3 days without sleep, his eyes as red as a rabbit's. When he woke up, Edward had been crying and cursing at him, but his hands were gently wiping him down. He'd laughed and pulled him into his arms, coaxing, "Stop crying. I won't do it again. Baby." Cole clutched his head in agony as more images assaulted his mind. He was holding Edward, kissing his belly over and over, his voice trembling with excitement. "Positive? Really? Edward, I'm going to be a father?" He was carefully pressing the black card into Edward's hand, his tone both bossy and insecure. "Take it. From now on, if I piss you off, you spend my money. Spend until you're not mad anymore. Just don't you dare leave me." The night before he lost his memory, he was tangled up with Edward, his breath hot. "Edward, after the baby is born, let's go abroad and get married. Okay? I'll give you the grandest wedding." Just then, his family doctor rushed in, flustered. "Mr. Cole, it was a mistake. A mistake. You're not sick, you're not going to die, you..." Cole shot to his feet. He asked, trembling, what the hell was going on. The doctor told him it was just gastritis, not stomach cancer. The initial tests, they were wrong. Cole let out a laugh that was pure, bitter rage. He'd driven away his treasure. And now they were telling him he wasn't going to die? God only knew how much he loved Edward, and yet he had used those venomous words to humiliate him. He suddenly remembered how he'd held Connor, sneering at a pale-faced Edward who was clutching his stomach. He remembered how he had forced the pregnant Edward to wait on someone else, nearly causing him to miscarry. Cole let out a guttural, animalistic roar of pain and slammed his fist into the cold wall. The pain of shattering knuckles was nothing compared to the regret and panic that tore through his heart. How could he have done that to Edward? Edward! Edward! He started searching the villa like a madman. The villa was eerily empty. Cole burst into the guest room and found that the few old clothes he'd once scorned as shabby, the ones Edward had secretly kept, were gone. In the back of the closet, a small, unassuming box had been overturned. Inside were a few old photos of Edward's parents and a crumpled early ultrasound scan. Cole's hand trembled as he picked it up. His own shaky handwriting was scrawled on it from that day. "My baby, Daddy loves you." His vision went black, and he almost fainted. The family doctor watched from a distance, not daring to approach. The housekeeper and other staff didn't dare get close either. All they could do was watch their boss tear through the villa like a headless chicken, trying to find any trace Edward had left behind. Finally, in his study drawer, he saw the text alerts for the credit card transactions. The last record was from 3 days ago. A massive transfer, $100 million, clean, to an unfamiliar overseas account. The timestamp was from the afternoon of the day he'd taken Connor to the stables and forced Edward to lead the horse. The blood in Cole's veins froze. He remembered every word he had said. "If you leave, don't you ever come back. We'll see who wants you, you broken piece of trash." What's with the damsel in distress act? It's disgusting. He had treated Edward like that, pregnant with his child and just having suffered a threatened miscarriage. Cole stormed back into the living room, his eyes bloodshot as he grabbed Connor's arm, his voice a horrifying rasp. At the stables that day, was he not feeling well? Did he look pale? Connor was terrified, stammering, I didn't notice, maybe a little." "Get out." Cole shoved him away with so much force that Connor fell to the floor. Connor tried to say something else, but Cole roared, "Get out or I swear I'll kill you." Connor's temper flared. "Cole, what the hell is your problem? You called me back here, I dropped everything I had overseas to come back, and now you're telling me to get lost? What do you take me for? I'm not one of your little flings, I'm not." Cole's hand shot out and wrapped around his throat, his eyes like ice. "Don't think I don't know about your filthy little schemes. You should be grateful you were of some use. Otherwise, someone like you wouldn't have ever gotten close to my baby." In an instant, a group of bodyguards appeared. They grabbed Connor and dragged him out. Connor was screaming curses. "Cole, you're a bastard. You deserve to have no one. If I were Edward, I wouldn't want a ruthless monster like you either. You son of a bitch, you deserve to die old and alone. You better give me my money, or I swear I'll never let you." His words were cut off. One of the bodyguards had taken off his sock and stuffed it in Connor's mouth. These bodyguards had been with Cole for years. They knew the truth about him. Cole had never liked Connor, but people always said Connor was the one who got away. The bodyguards did some digging and found out that Connor himself had started those rumors. Connor was only so brazen because his grandfather had once saved old Mr. Cole's life. But when Connor started causing trouble for Edward and bullying him, Cole had beaten him half to death and thrown him out of the country to fend for himself. They knew why their boss had called him back this time. It was all for a painful, well-intentioned reason. These last few days, when Mr. Cole was being cruel to Edward, they had seen him, night after night, banging his head against the wall in private. Everyone in New York knew who their boss truly loved. Love was so complicated. The bodyguards exchanged a look and dragged the sock-gagged Connor away. Inside, Cole collapsed to the floor. He buried his hands in his hair and let out a choked, animalistic sob. $100 million. It was the security and the shackles he had forced on Edward, and Edward had used it to cut all ties. He had used Cole's own humiliating gesture to buy his freedom from their entire relationship. "No, Edward, don't." He was incoherent, a tide of immense fear and regret drowning him. He'd lost him. He had truly lost his Edward and their unborn child. And it was all his own damn fault. Cole found out that Larry's not-so-normal uncle was also looking for him, and with ruthless methods. He quickly contacted him. He had to get Larry away from his baby first. A month, 2 months, nothing, not a word. Cole became a different person. He was volatile, moody, and obsessively dark. He ignored his company completely. He spent all day locked in the guest room where Edward had stayed, clutching the clothes Edward had cut up, trying to sleep by inhaling the faint scent that was almost gone. His gastritis acted up frequently, but he refused to take his medication. It was as if this self-punishment was the only way to lessen the pain in his heart. His family doctor pleaded with him, his voice trembling. "Mr. Cole, if you keep this up, you really will get stomach cancer. And then Mr. Russell really will move on with someone else and—" Cole snapped back to reality. That's right. He didn't have cancer now. He wasn't going to die. What was he doing here, half dead? He had to find his baby. And if his baby ignored him, he would. Cole looked like a cornered, dying animal. His eyes were shot with blood. His stubble was dark against his pale skin, and his wrinkled suit hung on his frame. The glamorous crown prince of New York was long gone. He had only one thought: find Edward. Get on his knees and beg him. Beg for his forgiveness. Beg him to come back. Beg him for one more chance. Even if it took the rest of his life, even if he had to grind his bones to dust. The helicopter landed on the edge of the island. Cole stumbled out, running toward the white sand beach and the dense grove of coconut palms. In the distance, he saw a familiar figure. Edward was wearing a loose, white linen shirt, his pregnant belly now very obvious. He was taking a slow walk, the sunlight casting a soft halo around him. Larry stood beside him, carefully handing him a glass of water, seeming to murmur some instructions. A flash of anger went through Cole. Why was Larry still here? Was his uncle that useless? Hadn't he been captured yet? He pulled out his phone and made a call. "Hey, you don't want your guy back, is that it? Because I can just toss him in the ocean to feed the fish." A cold voice answered on the other end. "Wait, you touch my guy and your guy doesn't live either." Cole grunted and hung up. So annoying. His baby, Edward. Baby. Cole's voice was broken and dry as he practically lunged toward him. "Baby, Edward heard him and turned. The moment he saw Cole, the softness on his face vanished, replaced by an icy calm and a flicker of wary alertness. He instinctively shielded his stomach. Larry immediately stepped forward, placing himself between Edward and Cole. His gaze cold as he stared at Cole like an intruder. Cole's steps faltered. He was only a few feet away, but it felt like an impassable chasm. He stared, dumbfounded, at Edward's clearly rounded belly. That was his child. His gaze traveled up to meet Edward's eyes, which were now completely devoid of emotion. Cole's heart felt like it was being squeezed by an invisible hand, the pain so intense he couldn't breathe. He opened his mouth, 1,000 words stuck in his throat, but all that came out was a phrase humbled to dust. "I'm sorry. Baby, will you come back with me? Please, the baby needs a father." Edward watched him quietly for a few seconds. Then he gave a very small laugh. "Mr. Cole." He spoke, his voice calm and flat, as if addressing a stranger. "You must have the wrong person. I'm just a disgusting man. How could I possibly be your pregnant wife?" Cole froze, struck dumb as if by lightning. The salty sea breeze swept over the beach. Cole stood a few feet away, like a beast caught in a thorn bush, covered in wounds, his eyes filled with a pain and desperation he had never shown before. Edward's words, "You must have the wrong person," were light as a feather, yet they had pierced through his last shred of hope. "Baby, please don't be like this." Cole's voice was a ragged, broken whisper. He tried to step forward, but his feet felt chained to the ground. "I'm sorry, I was a bastard. I deserve to die." He was rambling, the immense panic threatening to tear him apart. Edward just watched him, his eyes holding no hatred, no resentment, only the icy calm that comes after extreme suffering. That calm terrified Cole more than any weapon on earth. Larry shifted to block him more completely, his cool face a mask of protectiveness. Mr. Cole, Edward needs absolute rest. Your presence will only agitate him. Please leave. Shut up. Say one more word, and I'll rip your tongue out. Cole's head snapped up, his bloodshot eyes fixed on Larry with a sharp intensity. A hint of the powerful, commanding man he once was returned, still disheveled but not to be underestimated. Larry flinched, his body trembling slightly, but he put his hands on his hips, swallowed hard, and said with a tremor in his voice, "And Mr. Cole, what are you planning to do? Edward is weak right now, you can't bully him. Larry, do you want to lose that tongue?" Larry instantly clapped both hands over his mouth. I stepped in front of Larry, shielding him. "Cole, what do you think you're doing?" Cole's eyes immediately locked onto me. With a thud, he dropped to his knees in front of me. "Edward, baby, come home with me, please?" I frowned slightly, not because I was moved, but because I was tired of his attempts to control everything, even now. I turned my head and said softly to Larry, "Dr. Vance, I'm a little tired. Let's go back." "Okay." Larry nodded, carefully helping me up. Seeing that I was really about to turn and leave, the panic in Cole's heart finally overwhelmed his sanity. He started to sob, loudly, while banging his head on the sand in front of me. "Baby, are you leaving me? Baby, you know I've loved you since we were kids. I don't care. If you leave me, I'll just die." His assistant, who had come with him, quietly turned his back to face the ocean. But he couldn't hide the look of disgust on his face. He just didn't dare show it in front of his boss. Suddenly, several black SUVs drove onto the perimeter road of the island and stopped, their presence heavy and impossible to ignore. The doors opened. Well-trained bodyguards emerged, standing silently. The last man to get out was dressed in a perfectly tailored dark suit. He had a noble air, but it was laced with a deep, obsessive gloom. His gaze swept past everyone and landed directly on Larry, filled with a terrifying possessiveness. He was casually toying with a thin silver chain in his hand. Larry froze completely, as if nailed to the spot, his breathing becoming difficult. The man, Marcus, walked over slowly. He first gave Cole a slight nod, his tone flat but carrying a clear, unspoken understanding. "Mr. Cole, thanks. I owe you one." Cole's jaw tightened. He was clearly annoyed. "Get your person and get out. Don't get in the way of me and mine." Only then did Marcus's gaze fall fully on Larry. His voice was low, emotionless. "Larry, you heard him. Don't get in the way. Let's go home." Larry's lips moved, but in the end, he just closed his eyes in despair. He gently pulled his hand away from mine and whispered, "Edward, I'm sorry. You. Take care of yourself. I think I'm off to sell my ass." With that, as if resigned to his fate, he walked toward Marcus. Marcus seemed pleased with his obedience. He wrapped the silver chain around Larry's wrist. Without a second glance at anyone else, he forcefully draped an arm over Larry's shoulder and led him toward the villa behind us. The salty sea breeze swept over us. Cole was still kneeling on the sand, clutching my leg. He wasn't crying anymore, but his grip was a near spasmodic vice, like a dying man clinging to his only piece of driftwood. His nails dug into my skin. Edward's words, "You must have the wrong person," had become an icy needle, piercing the core of his madness. "Edward, baby." His voice was hoarse, no longer a plea but a raw, blood-flecked growl from deep in his throat. "Don't do this to me. I really thought I was dying. I thought I had a terminal illness, that's why I was so stupid. So, you thought I wouldn't be with you through hardship?" I asked. He shot to his feet instantly. No more kneeling. He wiped the tears from his handsome face. "That's not it. I was afraid you'd have to suffer with me. Baby, you love me so much. I knew if I died, you wouldn't be able to take it. You would cry, and I don't want you to cry." I took a step back in disgust. He immediately tensed, grabbing me and holding me in place. "Let go of me. You're covered in tears and snot." It's disgusting, I said deliberately. But Cole couldn't hold it together anymore. He started crying again. I knew it. I knew you were disgusted with me. Humph, even if you're disgusted with me, I'm still going to chain you to my side. He lifted his head. There was no trace of pity left on his face. His bloodshot eyes were churning with obsession, destruction, and a terrifying possessiveness so thick it was suffocating. What do you want to see me do? Huh? Should I rip my heart out for you to see? Just say the word. I'll do anything. I watched him quietly, the ice in my eyes no longer calm, but a different kind of extreme madness, a madness emptied of all emotion, leaving only a dead, vacant void. I knew it. Cole was a bastard, a lunatic. Cole's assistant started to step forward but froze, horrified by the atmosphere. Cole whipped his head around to look at him, his eyes like poisoned daggers. Get lost. He's mine. Only I can touch him. The assistant had no choice but to leave. Cole stared at me, his voice becoming eerily soft, which was somehow even more terrifying. Edward, see? There's no one else, it's just me. We're the same, you and I. A sound from the villa behind us shattered the terrifying standoff. The sound was completely undisguised. Larry's suppressed, broken cries, mixed with a man's deep, rough commands of possession. The sound of impacts, the scrape of a bed frame against the floor. It was like a raw, violent symphony announcing the seizure of ownership. Both Cole and I tensed. The sound didn't embarrass me. Instead, it was like gasoline poured onto the cold wasteland of my heart, igniting a pale blue flame. Cole's reaction was even more direct. His Adam's apple bobbed. His eyes instantly filled with a deeper darkness and a stimulated, extreme excitement. He pressed himself against my leg, his breathing growing heavy and hot. Do you hear that, Edward? He chuckled, a low, hoarse, and insane sound. Listen, that's how you're supposed to treat a naughty little thing. But I could never bring myself to do that to you. He shot to his feet, not because his legs were numb, but like a beast that had been thoroughly provoked. He yanked me into his arms, crushing me against him with a force that felt like it would grind my bones into his own flesh. But I could never bring myself to let you go either. He bit my ear, his voice a testament to his bone-deep obsession. You want to run? Run with my child? Edward Russell, in your dreams. Even if you die, you'll die in my arms. The embrace was so tight it hurt, but I laughed. My own laughter just as cold and crazed. Cole, besides going insane, what else can you do? I can love you, he roared, his eyes terrifyingly red. Love you my way. You can only be mine. You were before, you are now, and you will be forever. Even if you rot and stink, you'll rot in my family's soil. And your way is to hurt me, humiliate me, and bring someone else in to provoke me when I'm at death's door? I tilted my head back to look at him, my eyes no longer vacant but burning with the same twisted fire as his. Cole, you're pathetic. Yes, I'm pathetic. So love me and I won't be pathetic anymore. He admitted it without hesitation, pressing his forehead against mine, our noses brushing, our breaths mingling like two wild animals licking each other's wounds before a fight. I'm going fucking crazy without you, so you have to stay with me. We'll go crazy together. We'll go to hell together. The sounds from behind us suddenly crescendoed, then just as abruptly fell silent. Only the tireless sobbing of the waves remained. The brief quiet was like a rest note in the music. Cole's frenzy suddenly settled, transforming into a deeper, more obsessive dampness. He gently stroked my belly, his touch terrifyingly tender, but his eyes were like the flicking tongue of a snake. The baby is watching, too, he murmured, like the most vicious of curses, watching his fathers torture each other to the bitter end. He looked at me again, his eyes holding the lucid clarity of a madman betting everything on one last throw. Edward, we're getting married. Right now. Immediately. This isn't a request. It's a notification. You will give me this title, and I will bind you to me for life. Hate me or love me, I don't care. The name on the tombstone next to yours can only be mine. He pulled out his phone, and without another word, dialed a number. His eyes never left mine as he gave a cold command into the receiver. It's me. Arrange for a pastor to get to my island as fast as possible. I'm getting married tonight. He hung up and continued to stare at me, a sick, satisfied smirk on his lips. See? The simple. You can't escape. I looked at his obsessive, maniacal face, and deep in the cold ruins of my heart, it began to beat violently. A web of hatred and a twisted sense of belonging intertwined. I slowly raised my hand. My cold fingertips touched his face, which was tense with madness. Cole, I said softly, like a snake hissing, you're going to hell. He grabbed my hand and pressed it to his cheek, rubbing against it obsessively. He smiled. That's fine. You'll be there with me. How do you know I'll be there with you? Why would I be? Because you love me. Shoot, don't argue. I won't listen anyway. I just know. You love me. I had to hand it to him. It looked like I really was going to be with this madman for the rest of my life. Extra Cole's POV. I know my Edward has issues. An emotional processing disorder. The doctors said people like him lack empathy, that it's hard for them to truly love anyone. It's like they're watching the world through a sheet of glass. Funny thing is, I have issues too. Paranoid personality disorder. My possessiveness is off the charts, so extreme I want to chew him up and swallow him whole. So he'll be mine forever and can never leave. The two of us are a match made in heaven. A pair of lunatics. So when I got that terminal diagnosis, my first thought wasn't fear. It was rage, followed by an all-consuming panic. Late-stage stomach cancer. I didn't have much time left. What about my Edward? My baby? If the crazy one, died, who would take care of him, the other crazy one? Who could handle that cold, heartless demeanor of his, which could still unconsciously drive people mad? He couldn't love me, I knew that. He was just used to my presence, like he was used to air and water. If I died, he might be sad for a little while, and then what? He'd just go on living like a normal person? But even that little while of him being sad was more than I could bear. He was the person I held in the palm of my hand, the one I cherished in my heart. How could he be sad? Just imagining it made me want to jump out of my hospital bed and destroy the entire world. No, couldn't let him watch me die. I couldn't let him bear even a single ounce of the normal grief I might cause. It was better if he hated me. Hate lasts longer than any other emotion. It's sharper. It could protect him, make him forget me, or make him remember me even more vividly. A crazy plan formed in my mind. I had to force him to leave, in the cruelest way possible. The amnesia was fake. I rehearsed that scene countless times, kicking him out of bed, calling him worthless, bringing in that empty shell, Connor. Every hurtful word I said felt like a dull knife scraping my stomach, the pain so bad I could barely stand up straight. But I just laughed, more arrogantly, more viciously. I had to make him believe I had truly forgotten him, that I was disgusted by him. I had to make him hate me, and he believed it. The look in his eyes grew colder and colder, until it became a complete, vacant void I had never seen before. It worked, but my heart was aching so much it felt like it would explode. I doubled down. I brought Connor home, let him humiliate Edward. I watched as Edward, pale-faced and clutching his stomach, silently endured it all. I hid in my study, punching the wall over and over, the pain of my splitting knuckles the only thing that could stop me from running out and holding him. I forced him to go to the stables. I knew he wasn't feeling well. I knew it was dangerous, but I had to be absolute. The moment I saw him stumble and fall to his knees, his face instantly turning deathly white, I almost broke down right there. My Edward, my child. His body was unique. Having a child was so difficult for him. And I almost rushed over. But the last shred of my sanity held me back. Almost there. Just a little longer. He's about to leave. And he did leave. He even took the $100 million. Good. Very good. That was always for him. Enough for him and the child to live on. Only after he was gone did I allow myself to collapse. The searing pain in my stomach and the cavernous emptiness in my heart consumed me. I clutched the pillow he had slept on, panting like a dying dog, crying and laughing at the same time. I used all my resources to play the part of the groveling ex to perfection. I needed him to think I was full of regret, that I'd had a change of heart, not that I was dying. But then the doctor told me. He told me I wasn't terminally ill, that the tests were wrong. In that moment, I really was going insane. I wasn't dying, and I had done all that to my Edward? I found him on that island. I saw him healthy and well, his belly round, being so well taken care of by Larry. In that moment, I was truly jealous, but I was also truly relieved. I deliberately lured Marcus there. I know it was despicable, but I needed the chaos. I needed a distraction to get close to him. I knelt and held him, speaking words of regret that were half true, half false. The true parts tore me apart from the inside out. The false parts made me sick to my stomach. I looked into his cold eyes and knew that 80% of my plan had worked. Until those sounds came from the villa behind us. I knew what kind of monster Marcus was. Those sounds stimulated me, reminding me of how I had treated my Edward. Regret and despair peaked in an instant. I lost control. I said the most idiotic things, made the most obsessive threats. I forced him to marry me in the most insane way possible. If being soft didn't work, then I'd be hard. Either way, I was going to bind my Edward to my side. We two lunatics were always destined to be entangled until death, and maybe even after.